The Oklahoma Sooners baseball team has yet another top 25 matchup and a very big one. I know we keep on saying this each week, but this, again, is just another big time matchup really for both teams. They're going to be going against Ole Miss at home. It's time to pack the Dale and talk about it here on the Sooner Spotlight. Sooner Nation, welcome into another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. Very excited to talk about this big-time matchup this week at the Dale. It's going to be Oklahoma taking on the Ole Miss Rebels. It is a big matchup. Again, I know this is something that just keeps on being a recurring theme, but guess what? When you play in the SEC, you have big matchups week in, week out. It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to go and watch these two teams battle it out because both teams are kind of right in that verge of Oklahoma could bump up, Ole Miss could bump really high up. It's kind of up in the air, and both teams really struggling down the stretch to just become a top dog. And we'll talk about that and much more. Of course, you can find me on X at Real Josh Mahler. Go follow me over there if you want to keep up with me and this show and so much more. And then also follow the show on Instagram at Sooner Spotlight for all updates on the show and so much more. We're trying to do more on Instagram and try to grow that page. So if you would just take a quick minute, go over there and hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button over on Instagram. Sooner Spotlight is a member of the OU Insider content lineup. So to keep up with more Sooner sports, go over to OUinsider.com today to become a member of the greatest Oklahoma community out there. OU Insider keeps you up to date on Sooner sports and so much more, but it also gives you a platform as a fan to let your voice be heard, which is the reason why I partnered with them to become a member of their content lineup and to do some of the contributing for OU Insider. Go get signed up today, become a member, and guess what? There's also a code down below that if you use that code down in the description, use that code, you can get 4 months for the price of one right now. It's an amazing deal. It doesn't get any better than that. Just pay $9.95 to try it out for 4 months. 4 months, all for the price of just one. Go check it out. Try it out. See if you like it. If you don't like it, guess what? It's very easy just to hit that cancel button and it will never charge you again. But regardless, if you just pay $9.95, you get 4 months by using that code down in the description below. Check it out. Stop missing out on all the inside scoop and become a member of OU Insider today. Let's get started by hitting that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, give us a 5-star review. That's the best way to help us on those platforms. And again, of course, follow on social media to keep up with the show and so much more. But let's get into it because I know you guys don't care to hear about all of that. What you want to hear is about this matchup and kind of previewing what's going to be going on between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Ole Miss Rebels. Oklahoma right now sitting at a 30-13 overall record, and it's a good record. I know Oklahoma fans are a little disappointed with how things ended last weekend, and I totally get that. Last weekend against Georgia should have been a win, and again, another one of those series where you're right there, you're in the mix of it, and if you close certain things out, you take one inning out of any of those two games that Oklahoma lost, and you win that game. So I understand the disappointment, but Oklahoma's above 500 in the SEC, 11-10, which is great. If you can end the season 500 or better in the SEC, you're doing something right. Not only that, but we'll talk about it towards the end of the season, especially maybe even closer towards the beginning of next season, right in the fall area. We'll talk about, not in the fall, but right in the early spring, or kind of late winter. We'll talk about how much I have faith in this upcoming Sooners team for many reasons. But this year is your first year in the SEC, a gauntlet of a schedule, going through top-ranked team after top-ranked team, and now you take on Ole Miss, who is 32-13, so 2 more games. Oklahoma's had a couple canceled, one canceled this past week. That was supposed to be a midweek game against Wichita State, but Ole Miss is sitting at 12-9 in the SEC, and we'll talk about those records in the SEC a little bit more here in just a moment. But first, getting into Ole Miss and breaking them down. One thing when I dove into Ole Miss and taking a look at what they are very good at, this is, again, another reoccurring theme that I feel like happens a lot in the SEC, but their pitching is very good, and it's really all based and centered around their returning ace, Hunter Elliott, who is a major boost to this team. This team is absolutely amazing with him on the mound. He's very good. What he's been able to accomplish this season after coming off of an injury. He missed 2023 due to an elbow injury, and last year even you didn't see him at full strength. It didn't feel like, and that's what I've gathered. I didn't watch a whole lot of Ole Miss last year, but seeing from what the comparison is from last year to this year, it's totally a huge jump for him, in my opinion. And he's shown, I think overall, just an increase in his fastball velocity, I think, is one thing that's been thrown out there that he's improved on. He's also been able to kind of add a little bit more to his arsenal, maybe not extra pitches, but adding the danger of those pitches this past season and really throughout this season. Seeing what Hunter Elliott has done on the mound, that's one thing that worries me, because Oklahoma has struggled against very good pitchers. When they go against an elite pitcher, it seems like those bats are swinging a little too slow. They're just not quite connecting well. When they do connect well, it's popped up in the air for a fly out and things like that. So this is something that I'm very interested to see how this whole matchup goes down with Oklahoma, between the batters, who have done an amazing job, and we'll talk about Oklahoma here in just a moment and how great they've been on offense, but between them and then also going against a guy like Hunter Elliott, who is really good. And a lot of what has gone on, and I'll pull up Hunter Elliott's stats as well real quick, just to kind of give you an idea. He's pitching a 3.83 ERA, not amazing, but very good. Mason Morris is another pitcher of theirs that I saw a little bit of. He hasn't pitched a ton this season, but I expect him to. Really, he has pitched a lot more than I realized. 36 innings, but still, he's another one of those guys with a 2.75 ERA. I mean, it's a little worrisome when you see how deep their pitching is. And a big part of their pitching, too, and how good they are, is bringing in Joel Mangrum. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he's a pitching coach for Ole Miss and has done an amazing job. And he's got some major league experience, so he's got some big-time experience. He's been around with the Cleveland Guardians now, I guess. I almost said Indians, but it's the Guardians now, whatever you want to call them. He's been a really big addition for this pitching staff and trying to help them get going. And so, I mean, it's really been a big time jump for them since he's been on the staff, and especially with a guy like Hunter Elliott. Again, I'm going to bring him up because that's their ace, that's their guy, and he's really good. So the pitching worries me a little bit for Oklahoma, just because when Oklahoma has gone against good time pitching, big time pitching, I should say, it's struggled a little bit. Oklahoma has struggled just a little, not terribly. They've done well against good pitching too. You look back and look at what they did in that Vanderbilt series. That was some good pitching, and they were able to come away with that one. Even with what they were able to do against Alabama, it was really good pitching there. They still put up some good numbers. It's just closing games out, being able to keep yourself ahead. What we've seen throughout the season is if Oklahoma can get on the board first, if they can make a sizable lead getting into it, to get rolling early, that's usually where they succeed the most. And that's going to be very crucial, especially in game one. It's always game one. Last weekend against Georgia, it felt like Oklahoma had it in the bag after game one. In my opinion, I thought this feels like Oklahoma has it. Georgia took game two, but it was one of those situations where, yes, they took game two, but Oklahoma fought back and was in this thing. They didn't give up. They were one good hit away from taking that game away from them. After being down 7 in the 5th inning, turning that thing around to only losing by 1. Incredible performance by Oklahoma. And so I felt like even though they dropped game 2, game 3, they're coming out here and they're stealing this thing. Obviously wasn't the case. Anyways, going back to Ole Miss, they're sitting at a 291 batting average on the season. Oklahoma, I believe, is at a 290. I'll double check that real quick. But yes, 290. Oklahoma's sitting at a 290. So very similar in offensive performance as far as connecting with the bat, and which that's something that you like to see, because if our offense is able to connect with the bat just as well as your offense, let's see how good our defenses are. And Oklahoma's had their ups and downs on defense, for sure. A couple of guys to look out for Ole Miss: Luke Hill with a 349 batting average, Mitchell Sanford with a 312 batting average, and Isaac Humphrey 301. All of them in the upper 300s, 300 and plus batting average. They've got a couple of guys that are even right there on the 295 to 299 mark, and so I mean they've got a lot of very good guys, especially in the top of their order, and they've got guys that can connect with the bat, and overall their on base percentage is one to look at as well, and seeing how good they've been there. So it's not just all about the batting or your batting average and what you're able to do there, but really about how well you're able to get on base. Their on base percentage has been great all season long at 415. So over 40% of the time they're on base, which is something to compete with. That's something that you've got to watch out for, something that you've got to be aware of. Oklahoma's right behind them at 406. So about 40% of the time, just under 41% of the time, Oklahoma's able to get on base. And the problem that we've seen with Oklahoma in the past is getting a guy on base, but then making sure that we can get him into home, get him into scoring position so he can get home. And that's what I think Oklahoma's really got to focus on the most going into these last couple of series. So we've got Ole Miss, Kentucky, and then Texas. And we'll talk a little bit about that and the importance of this series going forward, and looking as fans, we can look forward and see what's going on in the series ahead. But going back to Ole Miss one more time, see here, Judd Utermark, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, and then Austin Foley. These are both sluggers on their team. Austin Foley may not even get into the starting lineup all 3 days, all 3 games, but he's a guy that if he's in the lineup, watch out for him. But Judd Utermark, again, not sure if I'm saying his name right. Both of these guys are sluggers. Both of them leading their team with 13 runs on the season and 82 combined RBIs between the two. So it's an offense that's going to be hitting heavy. They're going to look for big hits. They're going to look for getting guys in scoring position on bat one. Like they're going to look for doubles. They're going to look for triples. They're going to look for hitting it out of the park. And that's the kind of team you're going against here with Ole Miss. Not really so much triples. Oklahoma's been the leader on the season in triples, and has done an amazing job, with getting on with doubles. 81 doubles on the season and 14 triples. I mean, that's incredible. But home runs, Oklahoma doesn't have anyone. They have Easton Carmichael is the team leader in home runs hit this season with 10, where they've got 2 guys in double digits with 13. I believe they've got more in double digits as well. They've also got Mitchell Sanford, who we just talked about a moment ago, 12 home runs and 34 RBIs. Isaac Humphrey, again, who we just mentioned a moment ago for batting average, 9 home runs, 41 RBIs. And then again, Ryan Moorman, who's got 10 home runs and 41 RBIs. This is a high-scoring team. This is a team that has sluggers on their team. On offense, Oklahoma's got to look out for those hits where it's going to be a big hit. It's going to be, if they can connect their bats to the ball, you've got to watch out for it going out of the park. And you know how Oklahoma is too, especially there at the Dale. That wind is liable to be blowing straight out towards left field. That's where it likes to blow. And so that's something to take a look at. That's something to pay attention to and recognizing. Going into the history between these two teams, Oklahoma, I like Ole Miss's site better because Ole Miss only recognizes Oklahoma as being 0-2 against Ole Miss. Oklahoma is 0-2 against Ole Miss, but in reality, Oklahoma's 0-4. There was a time in 2005 where Oklahoma lost twice in the Oxford Regionals, and then once again in 2022 where we remember Oklahoma losing in the national championship at Omaha. Just a tough battle to get there for Ole Miss that year too. And so they were just on fire. Oklahoma caught them at the wrong time. It would have been great to have anyone else make it to the finals, but Ole Miss was just that team that was too hot, and Oklahoma got the worst of it. They got they got that tough matchup. So Oklahoma 0-4, most recent history we recognize as that team that took away that national championship, that what could have been a trophy added to the trophy case was taken away by this team. And so hopefully that's a little bit of a little bit of fuel to the fire. I know for Skip Johnson it could be, even though I think that he doesn't really care so much about that. He just cares about winning the next game. Great coach. But this is something, as Oklahoma fans, we can look for it that way. We can look at it as a rivalry, if you will, in that sense that, hey, we could have had a national championship sitting in our trophy case, could have had a banner somewhere up, but instead you guys took it away from us. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Something that could it will probably be brought up quite a bit on the broadcasts if you're listening in on the broadcast this weekend. But hopefully you can make it out to the Dale and you can be there live in person. You don't have to listen to the cringy ESPN analysts or anything like that. Not cutting any of them down per se. Just sometimes it's not the best to listen to. What I found was funny was, each time that Oklahoma's on national television, where they're on ESPN or ESPNU, not having to log into the ESPN app to watch it on SEC Network Plus. So when it's actually televised, easier for everyone to view it, I have found that the commentating is quite bland and boring. Whereas on the paid, the paywall, whatever you want to call it, on the ESPN app, I feel like it's not always the best, but at least it's better than when everyone's watching it, which was kind of crazy to me. Anyways, now that I'm done with that tangent, kind of going on in the standings, let's jump over to the SEC standings, because that's really what matters. You can look at the overall ranking, the national ranking for the Sooners. You can look at where they're ranked right now at 21 or 23. I think Oklahoma's ranked at number 21 and Ole Miss is 23, but don't quote me on that. Right now, Oklahoma is, again, back down towards the bottom of the elites, I will say. They really are. You've got Auburn, who's been just red hot recently, really in the last, the last 10 games or so, especially at home. Auburn has been on fire. And then, of course, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas, and Texas, all above Oklahoma. Now, for Ole Miss, they're sitting at 12-9 in the conference. A series win, which I don't think either team would sweep. I just don't think that's likely. Oklahoma would... Man, that would really be huge for Oklahoma if they could sweep. Of course, it would be big for Ole Miss, but it really wouldn't do much, a ton of damage for them compared to what it could do for Oklahoma. So for Oklahoma, a sweep could really boost you far up in the standings. But we're not going to go that far. I don't think either team sweeps in this series. I think these are two really good teams that even if one were to go off to a 2-0 lead and it comes down to the third game, the other team would win. That's just how I feel about these two teams going forward. But to look down below Oklahoma, and something that we talked to Blake Lane, I talked to Blake Lane, who is an Auburn guy. He's huge into baseball. He played at the collegiate level. He has been an SEC baseball fan for as long as he can remember. So, talking to him, we were talking, him and I were talking about how really there could be 13 out of the 16 teams to make it to the postseason, and it wouldn't shock me if there was a 14th. And right now, you look at it, Texas A&M, Florida, and Kentucky, all three are on a trajectory where if they can get themselves a couple of series wins, maybe one series win, and then filling out the rest with a win, not getting swept for the rest of the season, but maybe getting themselves one or even two series wins, really Texas A&M, Florida, and Kentucky could all very easily be in the postseason talk without a doubt. At the very least, you're sitting there, absolutely the top 10 teams in the SEC are going to be in the postseason. There's no doubt about it, from Oklahoma all the way up to Texas in the standings. They are going to have 10 teams in the postseason out of 16. That's how good the SEC is, okay? And I want Oklahoma fans to realize that. I think personally, I think that for sure there's going to be an 11th, 12th, possibly 13th. 11th, I 100% there will be 10. 11th and 12th team to make it in would be between Kentucky, who I think will be there, Florida and Texas A&M. I like Texas A&M, but one of those two teams battling it out for the what did I say, the 12th team, 11th or 12th, I guess, 12th team. I don't know. I mean, I really think that that's a possibility, and it wouldn't surprise me if Mississippi State squeezed their way into that talk as well, based on how the latter end of their schedule goes, the latter end of their season. But right now, looking at Oklahoma, so if they were to take this series win, that would put them at 13-11 in the SEC. Again, you have to be happy with that, because now you're 3 wins away from a 16-win season in the SEC. Keeping yourself above 500 in the SEC is absolutely phenomenal. So a series win here for Oklahoma, I mean, you're putting yourself up there. So, I mean, you've got Vanderbilt, Oklahoma has won against. Ole Miss, who, again, Oklahoma, if they win this series, would have won against, boosting themselves above those two teams, and possibly even Auburn, given that Auburn doesn't have a sweep this upcoming season. And then, you've got Georgia and Alabama, who are two teams that you hung in there just fine with and really showed that you have the ability to beat them on the road. So, Oklahoma is right behind those two teams. And then, of course, you've got Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas, and Texas all up above those teams. So, I mean, this gives Oklahoma a huge boost where you are just barely behind or possibly even tied with Alabama and Georgia, who you barely lost to on the road. A series win for Ole Miss, that would be pretty big for them. That probably boost them above Georgia and Alabama, depending on how their season or their weekend were to go. It puts them right up there with the top 4. It puts them right into that mix of the top 4, top 4, top 5. Oklahoma, it could put them up easily into the top 6 again, which they were there last season, last weekend. And if they were to have won that series against Georgia, they would still be there right now. So that's how close this race is. In the top 10 of the SEC, everyone is neck and neck all the way up until you get about to the top 4. Really, the top 3. That LSU, Arkansas, and Texas have really boosted themselves out ahead of everyone else, where no one's really going to interfere with their ranking. But from the number 4 spot all the way down to the number 10 spot, and even going into the 11th spot, where Kentucky's sitting there at 10 and 11, could still move their way up and bump somebody down out of the top 10 of the SEC. Really, you're sitting in a very good spot in this conference if Oklahoma can win this series. It's huge for Oklahoma. And of course, I think it's very big for Ole Miss, but they've got some room for error. I really believe that. Now, I guess I don't really know their schedule going ahead, so maybe they don't have too much room for error because they've got to watch out for that. I haven't really dove into that too much. Let's see. They've got, after Oklahoma, they do have Mississippi State. So again, I think they have room for error. Auburn at home, which Auburn's been phenomenal at home, but they've not been great on the road. So, I mean, out of those two, I mean, you've got room for error if you're Ole Miss. Oklahoma has a very, very tough task with going on the road to Kentucky. Again, Oklahoma hasn't been the best on the road. They lost to not South Carolina. They barely beat South Carolina, who they really should have swept. They lost to Alabama on the road, and they lost to Georgia on the road. So, not the best on the road. Now you go over to Kentucky on the road, and that's a matchup that I think Oklahoma should be able to sweep. I don't think they will. But where now the pressure's on for Oklahoma to try to sweep that series, because you really want to sweep that series going into Texas in your last week. And if you were able to somehow squeeze away, let's say you just barely win the series, win 2 against Kentucky, and you were to somehow pull out Texas and win that series, then you're sitting golden. You look amazing. You are probably hosting a regional. Just throwing that out there. I don't think Oklahoma beats Texas at this point from what I've seen so far in the season, but it is at home. They perform better at home. They're not perfect at home. They do perform better. So there's a chance. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up that Oklahoma would host a regional, because I just don't personally. I'm in favor for Oklahoma not hosting one this season, just because let's move out of and go out as an underdog, as a number 2 seed. Now, for the organization, for the school itself, and the money aspect, yeah, let's host a regional, because that's the way you want to go. But from a fan's perspective, I would be okay with Oklahoma going in as a number 2 seed somewhere, even a number 3 seed, and really squeeze your way into there as an underdog at a number 3 seed. I mean, you would probably be projected to win that regional no matter where you are as a number 2 seed or 3 seed. So just throwing that out there for just mentioning how Oklahoma's season could go and how big this boost would be for Oklahoma to win this series. Losing this series hurts Oklahoma in terms of, I think most, if not all, hopes are gone for a regional hosting. Not all, because you still have some chance, I guess, but I wouldn't put any kind of money on it. Going on, let's see. It's going to be at L. Mitchell Park. Of course, it's going to be in Norman. And L. Mitchell Park is only slightly, not much bigger than Swayze Stadium. I'm not sure if it's Swayze Stadium or Swayze. I think Swayze sounds cooler, so I'm going to go with that. Apologies to Ole Miss. I don't know how to say your stadium name, so please let me know. But it's not much bigger. It is a little bit bigger than their park, so that could benefit Oklahoma. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that really matters too much, because it's only a few feet bigger, and Ole Miss is the slugger team. They're more of a slugger team than Oklahoma. But looking at the forecast this upcoming weekend, there's really not an excuse for the stadium not to have at least 3,000 packing it all 3 nights, if not maybe 5,000 plus on Saturday and Sunday, because those 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, should be a couple of beautiful days for going out and enjoying your day in the ballpark. Absolutely beautiful days in the ballpark. I wouldn't be opposed to even maybe doing a double header on Saturday, just because of the way I see that the weather's supposed to be on Friday. But Friday, it could be delayed. It's possible that it would be delayed. But I think that all of the bad weather should be gone. All the thunderstorms and rain should be gone by game time. So hopefully it'll be nice. Might be a little muggy, might be a little wet. But Friday should be just fine. Saturday, Sunday should be beautiful days, and I hope I'm not jinxing anything by saying that, but just throwing out the forecast and what has been given to me based on, I think I pulled those off of WeatherBug. That's been the one that I've been going with lately, and seems to have been doing the best job for me. But ultimately, looking at this series, I think Oklahoma, based on what we've seen from Ole Miss in these last few games and seeing where they have been, I think Oklahoma should be able to pull themselves out of this series with a win. Looking at what Ole Miss did just last weekend against Vanderbilt, who has been very good recently, and makes Oklahoma look much better the way that they were able to rule them in Game 2 and steal that series. But Game 1 against Vanderbilt, Ole Miss won that one, and then won Game 2, but then got clobbered 13-0 in Game 3. So seeing that matchup, and then they also had a very close battle with Mississippi State in a midweek game, which is kind of funny because they also have a series coming up with them. And then also dropped 2 against South Carolina. So, I mean, just looking at what they've done recently, Oklahoma has a very real chance, and I'm going to predict that Oklahoma takes 2 games. I don't know which games because I need to see the lineups. I need to see. I personally like when we put Jason Walk down at the 5 spot in the lineup. Trey Gamble, number 1, obviously, I think he's been doing great there. He's been leading the team, still up there at a 319. And really, we've had a couple of guys that have really kicked it on in their batting average. For Jackson Willits, all the way up to a 315 batting average right now. Kyle Branch bumped himself up to a 311 batting average, which I just called him out for, hey, I want to see you just do a little bit more, because that's the type of player that he is. and he's been turning it on, especially last weekend. I think he gets the player of the weekend last weekend for me, outside of Dayton Taki's amazing Game 1 performance and Dawson Willis's Game 2 performance. Kyle Branch was just consistent, and I like what I saw from him last weekend. Easton Carmichael also bumped himself up to a 310 average. Jason Walk 292. Dayton Taki 293, even though I know he's going to be injured and out for the rest of the season. Drew Dickerson has a very good chance to bump himself up into that close to 300 batting average range. We'll see what he's able to do. And let's see if Scott Mudler stays in the lineup too. I'm curious. I don't know for sure what Skip's got hidden up his sleeve, but I think I would expect him to start to mix things up. And like I've mentioned before, I like Kyson in that Game 2 slot. So this weekend it'd be the Saturday game, and then Malachi to close it out on Sunday. I like it that way. It seems to have worked. Cade did not have a great game this past weekend, but he bounced back. So let's see that bounce back and keep on fighting, and close it out with a great game. I would assume that he's still got his starting position. I don't know why they would take him out completely, but Skip knows better than I do. So I do think Oklahoma seals this series against Ole Miss. I really do. I think that they've got a very good chance to take 2 out of the series. Now, if they were able to sweep this series, that gives you much more room for error going forward. I don't think it's going to happen, but take 2 of this series, move on, try to sweep Kentucky. Do your best, and then even if you don't sweep Kentucky and you were able to win the series against Texas, don't think it's going to happen. But if you were able to do that, steal 1 from Texas, and you got to feel pretty good about the chances, especially if you're able to kind of unfold the 2 series that you've got at hand. But right now, of course, the team just paying attention to what you've got ahead of you. I would love to see Scott Mudler get into the lineup. Hopefully he's healthy enough to do so. I think that he is. Everything that I've seen, I think he's fine. But who do you want to see have a good game? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And throw in there what you think the series is going to be. Comment down below. That's a great way to help us here on YouTube. Hey Sooner fans, did you enjoy this video? Well, go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you doing if you've made it this far and haven't already? You should be able to find that subscribe button over here. And then if you want to see full episodes, we've got those up here and clips right down here. So go check that out. But we thank you all so much for all the love, all the support. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.